Couple relationship in the 21st century is really very, very difficult. We made 3 wishes for intimate relationship and we got all 3 of them. The first wish was to have a relationship that was equal, reciprocal, mutual, that had the kind of eye-to-eye connection rather than one person being above the other. And the second wish was that we would be able to fall in love and choose a partner no matter how different that partner might be from what our families wanted or what our tradition was. And the third wish was to have a partner who would know us and see us, who could be a witness, who could say, I really do see who you are, and that we could do that for the other person, so that there would be that feeling that we are known, that we're seen. So those 3 wishes we got. And it turned out that they made committed long-term relationships more difficult, not easier. What we don't understand and what we haven't been able to come to terms with is how difficult it is to live in a family without hierarchy, without someone being in charge, and how difficult it is to negotiate conflicts with someone who's supposed to be an equal, where we're supposed to have mutual responsibility for the decision making, and with somebody who's supposed to know us personally so that we take it personally what they say about us, and somebody who is actually a part of what really counts in our life. So this setup leads to repetitive conflict, difficulties with power struggle, and ultimately, and this seems almost ironic, it leads to the feeling of being with an enemy, like an intimate enemy, somebody who knows you well and who actually does so many things that are painful to you, and you're not sure why, and you're not sure how to overcome that, because when you try to explain yourself or when you get into questioning, that tends to lead to defensiveness on both your partner's part and your own part. So when we look back to our parents' marriages or to the marriages that we might have even idealized, we really can't be sure that they were dealing with the same kind of thing, because they probably weren't in a reciprocal, mutual, equal. They probably weren't trying to be best friends. They probably weren't sort of looking at the other person thinking, does this meet my need for happiness? In the past, say in my parents' lives, my parents stayed with each other because they got married in church and their families expected them to stay. They didn't take it personally. They weren't thinking, oh, what does this mean about me that I'm with you? It was more like, I'm with you and I'm sticking it out because that's what I'm supposed to do, even if I don't like you. But I'm doing the right thing, staying with you. All the rules have changed and we got our wishes and we don't know what's wrong. So that's what I think is, let's say, the dilemma or the paradox of love in the 21st century. Dialogue therapy began in 1980 as a result of my partner and husband and best friend of that time, Ed Epstein, and I working together to integrate psychodrama and a lot of the dramatic, challenging aspects of psychodrama into a therapy situation in which the 2 members of the couple were engaged with each other instead of with a therapist as a third element. It was designed as a co-therapist model, 2 therapists in the room, as a way of having really the way of surrounding the couple, which meant that each partner had a therapist companion. It was in 2015 that I began to bring back dialogue therapy in a revised form, and have written a new book called True Love Ways, which is a book to introduce it to couples and also to therapists. But I've also designed a new course using the framework of either the co-therapist or the solo therapist model to bring dialogue therapy back to professionals who could be introduced to it through the course and then over time can be supervised and develop it in their practice. Okay, so this is our second meeting after the evaluation. It'll be our first meeting of dialogue therapy where we're actually practicing the skills that you learned about in our first meeting, or you got the handout for anyway. And we will be doing that in a way that involves Jeannie and I in several different roles. And I'll explain the role of coaching, and you can explain then maybe alter ego, and then we'll come back to the dialogue. So sometimes Jeannie and I will talk to each other. Sometimes we'll talk about what you've said to us. And sometimes I will speak to you like this. I'll lean over, and I might even tap you and say, talk to me for a moment, and I'll be coaching you on something. If I think that it's really involved and that I need to talk to you in greater detail, I'll switch chairs with you, Katie. So in that role, I will be your coach. And then we have another role that we use, which Jeannie's going to talk about.
And this is the role of us in alter ego or doubling state. And so what we'll do in that situation is, if Katie's talking about something that has some emotional content to it, and I feel like the emotion itself is obfuscated somehow, I'm going to try and speak for her to you. So I will speak as her, and I'll speak directly to you, Will. And Katie can say to me, yes, that's right. No, that's not quite right. I'm going to alter it in this way. I'm going to play with it, and you can respond to whatever we've come up with that way. Polly will do the same with you. So she'll speak through you to Katie, and you can tweak it in any way that doesn't feel right to you. But if it feels like it's accurate, you can just stay with it, and Katie will respond to you with Polly's words.
Dialogue therapy puts together the partners being emotionally activated, bringing insight into their own unconscious fantasies, internal theater, the roles that they've set out for themselves and their partner, with ability to actually stop and take in what's going on and work with one's own feelings and thoughts.
I hear you saying that your ability to follow your desires and to be what you are is like really important to you. And I'm getting lost again.
You have a hard time doing this because it's hitting something in you that you don't want to feel. And that's why then you forget what it is, partly. So
I feel like on the fence sort of with that subject, that I'm like, I'm half that and I'm half like the practical side of me.
Yeah, I'm gonna change seats with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. So you had a very hard time taking in what Katie was saying. Even when you paraphrased that, after I paraphrased it a couple of times, you left out some of the essence of it. So you were saying that you have a hard time hearing it because it does something to you. I can tell you're activated by it on a feeling level. Yeah. Do you know anything about the feelings that it stirs up in you?
No, not right now.
Dialogue, in the way that we talk about it in dialogue therapy, is a particular form of conversation. And it's a form of conversation that you would use when you're in a time of emotional conflict. It's very, very useful in a conflict. And dialogue is also useful when you're out in the world and you're having a challenging moment with somebody. So dialogue is the capacity and the skill to speak for yourself in I statements. That means not using we, not using you, but I'm having this experience, this is how I see it, this is what's going on with me. And then also being able to paraphrase through something that's often called active listening, where you're able to say to your partner, here's what I'm understanding of what you just said.
So around that topic, I sometimes feel that I am working a lot and you are not, and that I therefore have less time and energy to pursue the things I want to pursue, both on my own and with you. Yeah, that's pretty much the crux of it.
So, I guess I'll paraphrase. I hear you saying that you are. I put you in a position, or you're in a position where you feel like you do too much in a way that isn't working for you, that doesn't support you in pursuing the things that are most important to you.
It's the attempt to step into that person's point of view on the world, that person's emotional reality, and to say, here's what I understand your experience to be like from what you've told me. And in order to do that, when you're emotionally activated, you have to have some mindfulness skills. You have to be able to step back and to reflect and to breathe deeply and to accept what's going on. Dialogue therapy introduces the deep compassion of being able to see somebody through the thick and the thin of it, and to be able to remain interested even when that person brings you pain. And I think most of us really, really want to be able to do that with our loved ones, but it is very, very difficult to do. And if people can do it with their partners, with their grown children, with the people that are in their families, they certainly can take that kind of skill outside of the family and use it where it's much easier to use, actually. Dialogue therapy exemplifies some way of bringing compassion and clarity and equanimity to the challenges of the world.